Over the years, Memorial Day weekend has also come to be a time of backyard barbecues and family occasions. This year also marks the end of Ramadan. Observed with a feast called Eid, it comes as houses of worship begin to reopen. But as with Easter and Passover a few weeks ago, the question remains as to how to do so responsibly.
There's something about, the cameras on the inside of the house and the way that we're learning to connect that creates like an instant connection. I think we're finding ways to talk about certain things and to talk in a certain way and to connect from our homes with people that are in their homes so that we all truly are alone together.
How do we keep our responsibility to others and, maintain that social distance that we need and look out for one another when we're at an occasion where it's all about getting together?
We're going to have some sort of a car parade at our community just to have somewhat of a connection. But yeah, it's tough.
What do you think the future is going to look like?
I'm a Louisiana kid. I went through Hurricane Andrew as a kid and then, went through Katrina as an adult. And then I realized, I was like, camera phones had just come out like a year or two before Katrina hit. Like we didn't have YouTube or Zoom or webinars in the way that we have them now. It was a very unique experience and we had to adjust. This time around with our kids, I've got a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and an 11-month-old. So we've been running the homeschooling and things of that sort. We're all going to be, tech experts by the end of this, without replacing what we miss so much, the in-person worship and community that we hope to get to as soon as possible.
With grocery prices surging, the Texas Department of Agriculture is stepping up with a way to save you money and save Texas farmers and ranchers.
We are part of the emergency management response team for the state. Farmers are receiving record low prices for their beef, and consumers are paying record high prices.
One solution is to put customers in direct touch with growers.
There's a lot of people who go out to dairy and buy their milk and their eggs and maybe some beef or chicken or pork, but they don't have those connections. So we're the catalyst to bring all that together.
High quality food, straight from the farm and ranch.
Fresh, not flash frozen, no salt, no additives, no preservatives, no dyes, fresh right off the farm. Many times it's organic.
It's happening through the department's GoTexan.org website.
Direct from Texas, go online. If you're a producer, post your stuff on there. If you've got produce or eggs or any kind of Texas product, hot sauce, jerky, whatever, the farmer wins and the consumer wins.
Food, however, is not Miller's only concern.
Rural health care has been a real challenge for us.
163 rural hospitals, over 200 clinics that we're trying to keep open. My inspectors that would normally be doing eggs and inspecting scales and certifying seed, we've converted over and we're delivering personal protective equipment.
After a recent appearance on the CBS program 60 Minutes, Miller heard from a viewer who wanted to help.
She called me trying to find an address for this nurse practitioner, Elizabeth Ellis. Lives in Beatus, Texas. I said, sure, is there something I can help you with? She said, yeah, I would like to send her my stimulus check. That's what Texans do. That's the Texas spirit right there. That's why Texas is the last best place. We're used to responding to hurricanes and droughts and hailstorms and pestilence and disease and all that. With this pandemic, it's all 254 counties. We've never had to respond to something like this. And that's why we've set up 5,000 feeding stations across the state, trying to keep kids fed and keep food in front of everybody and working with our area food bank.
But one story from the pandemic stands out from the pack.
We had a big problem when this pandemic first hit. Toilet paper. You couldn't get toilet paper. All the shelves were empty. I found a warehouse full of toilet paper. Enough toilet paper, for the whole state. But we couldn't sell it because it was all labeled in Spanish. And we have a law here in Texas, when you sell a product, the instructions have to be in English. Well, look, we don't need the instructions. So I asked for a waiver and it was granted, cowboy logic.
Which might just be the department's new motto.
Texas Department of Agriculture, we get the toilet paper to the people.
Hard to imagine, but this year's high school seniors were mostly born after 9/11. Generally speaking, they've never known a world in which the World Trade Center's Twin Towers stood. Born in the 90s, you don't remember a world without texting, which arrived in 1996. Which means there's also a really good chance you've never seen something like this. Notice anything missing? Here's my family's car about 1970, a Chevy Impala. Pretty cool Schwinn too, right? Inside, something else you don't see much anymore. It was called the parcel shelf, which was where you could stick things like Christmas presents if the trunk was full. But that's not really what we used it for. Back in the 60s, the parcel shelf was where your kids took a nap. Now, imagine Dad slamming on the brakes at 40 miles an hour with little Junior up there. What you don't see are seatbelts. Oh, we had them, we just didn't use them. Usually they were tucked down under the seat back so, as my dad used to say, they wouldn't stick you in the rump. Now, seatbelts had already been around a while. The first patented seatbelt came from an American named Edward Claghorn in 1885. By the 1930s, seatbelts started showing up in automobiles, and doctors started noticing that people who wore seatbelts didn't die as often in car wrecks. It wasn't until 1966 that America passed a law requiring seatbelts in all U.S. cars. Even then, people were slow to adopt them. Some people argued they made car wrecks more dangerous because you could be trapped in a fire or underwater. Others said people would think they were safer and therefore drive faster, causing more wrecks. A few even called seatbelts an infringement on their liberty. What really changed things were the insurance companies, which realized live uninjured passengers and drivers were a lot less expensive than dead ones. After a long public information campaign, New York became the first state to pass a mandatory click-it-or-ticket law in 1984, but it would be another decade before every state except New Hampshire had a similar seatbelt statute on the books. Did it work? Well, even though there are vastly more cars on the American road today, the per capita fatality rate for auto accidents is half of what it was in 1976. Kind of makes you wonder about other things some people object to these days that might not seem all that strange in the future. Still ahead, remembering Memorial Day with actor Barry Corbin, when more life continues.